Boom! What's up, folks? Blaze Thompson back again for Food Chart Fridays live at high noon, where we give experience on our 1-2-3 balanced approach to fitness and how common sense nutrition, common sense eating applied on the ground with clientele, how it works, what we do to get people great results by executing the basics consistently. I want to say I'm not a nutritionist. I like to share my experience on the system that we use here that I've been running with my fitness clientele for over 17 years now. Also what I learned from growing up a child of fitness with a mother who had a fitness television show, has been in the industry basically my entire life. I used to listen to discussions of aerobics at the dinner table at night between my mother and my aunt, to the point that me and my little brother, when we were kids, would say, "Stop it! No more talk of the grapevine," and I have sworn the grapevine off for life. So, with that being said, what we try to do on these Fridays at noon is we look at some real data from the ground. We look at food charts from actual clientele. We show you the pluses and minuses of what some of these people are doing in an effort to help you. I invite anybody out there that has questions or comments about food to write in, ask them, and I'll give you some feedback to help you get moving in the right direction. And then we always have a topic of the week. This week, what we're talking about is what you can do to make your food fit no matter what, right? And by that I mean fit into your schedule no matter what, right? So we're going to approach that in a second. I like to start off first with looking at food charts, and this is a man I've been talking about for several weeks. This is Dave, the gentleman who is coming back from cancer, a survivor. He was working on his exercise and just being willing to get back in the gym after going through all that, and his food really needed to be addressed. Last week, he started heading in the right direction after 3 or 4 weeks of some serious levels of insanity going on in his food chart, for lack of a better term. I'm talking McDonald's all the time, milkshakes. This week, this man, ladies and gentlemen, has crushed it. And I was not in the gym. I got excited just saying it. This morning, I just got the chart on my desk, and I actually got my first chance to look at these charts. We've been going blitzkrieg today. But, dude, I can't tell you how proud I am of what I see on this. His breakfasts are much better. Not great, but much better. He's got a couple of McMuffin and a parfait here and there for breakfast, but most days it looks like he's getting protein in consistently at breakfast. His snacks are awesome. He is going Muscle Milks, protein bars consistently, and I've definitely hammered protein bars and protein shakes, saying they need to be a small portion of your diet, not the whole thing. But we also need to make sure that we're consistent, and that's what's most important. We're going to talk about that here in a few minutes with our topic of the day. But he has also drastically reduced the amount of just plain old shit in his diet. I do not see as much junk on this paper as I have. I mean, there's honesty on here still. We got some chips and some fries at lunchtime. We've got an ice cream and a pie here in the evening. But this dude had this every single meal, every single day a couple of weeks ago. Zero snacks, nothing. And I'll bet you money this man lost weight this week. So I'm looking forward to exploring that. I just want to say I'm proud of the movement forward. So he's using protein bars and protein shakes to make it consistent and easy. Next, we're going to talk about Miss Di. All right. Now, this lady has been busting it with me for quite some time also. And she has experienced changing lifelong patterns of eating dessert every night. At one point, she said, when we first started working on her food, she's had a little up and down with a lot of life drama going on here with extended family lately, traveling. And it looks like this week she's back on point. She brought her weight down by about a half a pound in the last week, and that's because these food charts aren't perfect. And what I mean by perfect is you get 2 misses a week. A miss means you skip a meal, you eat too much, or you make a bad choice. And this woman drinks wine, a glass of wine every night, which to me is a bad choice. It's empty calories, right? But she's doing a great job with her carbs. And by that, I mean calorie-dense foods. Lots of food, vegetables, fruits, grains have carbohydrates in them. Certain ones have more than others. Those are the ones I'm lumping into that category. She has gotten those down pat. She doesn't have those at her dinners, right? She's chosen to do most of those choices either at breakfast in the form of this toast that she's doing up here, or later on with maybe that wine choice at night. Otherwise, she's getting her snacks in more consistently again. She's got green vegetables. She changed off protein bars so hard. She's doing turkey and spinach. Today she had some turkey and avocado at snack time at the gym in her little container. I've taken pictures of her before on Instagram. So I'm proud of her willingness to see her moving in the right direction. All right. So we're only going to do two more charts. This is a new person I started with. This was a kid. And I just want to bring up the honest conversation I had with this little girl, because we see her having written on her chart, nothing for breakfast and lunch and a mid-morning snack. Then she's got steak sandwich, turkey sandwich. Then she's got nothing for dinner one night, steak sandwich with soup and chips. You know, first of all, anytime I work with a young person, I sit them down the very first session. I take them away from their mom and dad, and we sit down one-on-one together. And I ask that kid, listen, I need to know the truth. This is between me and you. Your mom and dad's way over there, and I'm not worried about what their answer is to these questions. I need to know where you're at. And I ask them, why are they here? Are they here to see me because their parents made them show up? Or are they here to see me because they really decided they wanted to come in and do something? And, you know, I try to make it a safe place where they can just be themselves and talk. And this little girl, her first answer was, well, I think that's because I want to be healthy. And I was like, are you sure that's the right answer? Your real answer? Is that what you think will score right on the test? And she said, no, I want to do something different. And this little girl, you know, she's 14. She definitely could stand to lose a little bit of weight, but I'm not going to put her on a scale or body fat test or any of that stuff. What I'm going to try to do is what I do with all of my clientele, adults, athletes, everybody combined, is teach them a consistent system that they can learn and start applying one meal, one rep, one moment at a time with our 1-2-3 balanced approach to fitness. And so with this food chart, number one, I just tried to bring up some of her awareness by teaching her a little bit about the importance of doing the basics, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then trying to get little snacks in between so your metabolism, so you don't start feeling hungry and craving bad foods. By not eating breakfast and mid-morning snacks, she's setting herself up to have these big steak and cheese meals late at night. But then the next thing I did, after I figured out that this little girl actually wants to be here for herself, she's not here because her mom made her, is I went and I talked to her mom. All right? So the worst food chart I've ever received was from a girl several years ago. You have 49 chances on these charts to do the right thing. Excuse me, 42 chances. You got 7 days worth of food. You got 6 meals a day. That's 42 opportunities to do the right thing. I had a girl one time had 39 misses in her first week of writing her food down because it was Doritos and chocolate milk every single time. So when I looked at that chart, the first thing I did after blessing her out for a second in a loving and caring way was I went and I sat down with her mom and I said, you are responsible for this chart. That girl was 14 years old, just like this little girl right here. But you know who's buying this food and preparing most of these meals? Her freaking parents. And we learn stuff from the top down. I cannot tell you the number of times I see parents who are overweight, sedentary, don't work out, that bring their kids in to get fit, but aren't doing jack shit for themselves and teaching their kids these things and then laying it on their kids. Like, this little girl's not even eating breakfast and snack for these first 2 times in the day. That's strictly parenting right there. And look, I don't pretend to be a fantastic parent, but I know my kids eat broccoli. And if they don't eat the broccoli, I just teach the same thing my mom did with me. And that was, we had baked fish, rice, and broccoli or green beans at night. And if you didn't eat the food on your plate, then your ass was hungry. And you didn't get to eat anything else. And that's just the facts, right? I consistently hear parents these days say things to me like, well, she just won't eat the healthy foods. And they justify buying pizza, and they do that because it's easy. They don't want to have to deal with their kids, you know. And in reality, in some ways, I would imagine that's some reverse affirmation, the parent wanting to make the kid happy instead of parenting. Because, you know, whatever happened to them when they were kids. But here's the truth. You get out what you put in. And when you put in crap foods and when you put in crap value systems, which is what this really is. This is a value system written out. Was I willing to take care of myself every 3 hours? And guess what? This kid is doing what her mom does because her mom was overweight and sitting there. And her mom straight up said to me, I know I don't look like I'm necessarily in shape, but I do try to prepare them good foods. Well, what do you prepare for yourself outside of that? And what are you teaching them when you're giving me this kind of lackadaisical excuse and you aren't taking care of yourself either? So I'm done on my high horse here. I was very fortunate to have a mom who was, you know, let's just be real, maybe a little over the top with some of our fitness stuff. But you know what? I ate Little Debbie's after I had some of this stuff. So there's a little bit of balance there. And hey, I'm not pretending like just because we ate good and exercised, life was perfect, right? There's other areas of life with our emotional, physical, and spiritual health we have to address. But when I follow through and I do the right thing here, it begins to permeate and cross those boundaries into the other part of my life. And by taking responsibility of giving those kids healthy options only and saying you don't get anything else till you finish this. I had to have that discussion last night over some broccoli with my daughter because usually they crush the broccoli, and last night I had prepared it in a way that she wasn't used to, and she was not going to do it. And I said, well, you're going to sit there and eat that, and if not, you don't get anything else, and we're going to stop watching this movie because Daddy's making the rules, and you're going to get your food in. Long story short, I gave the little girl some awareness. I sat with her mom, and I didn't blast her, and I'm doing it anonymously now. But I did give her some tough love, and the fact that she's learning this from you, and realistically you clean up. And here's the last piece of that puzzle. The girl that did that 7 years ago, that had the 39 misses out of 42, and I gave her mom that speech, her mom needed to lose about 30 pounds. I ended up training that lady. That lady lost all that weight. She started to change her food, and now her daughter's in college. And they really became two of my favorite all-time clients that they've now moved. She went to college at South Carolina. The mom moved to Charlotte. But I consistently get emails, and we still have communication that she's made and continued those changes to this day. And that was a shift for their family, not just for the daughter. And that might tear me up because it really did tear me up one time before to realize just how hard and how beautiful something like that is, and how it ain't about me. I just got to watch and tell them the truth and see them change one meal at a time. So, okay, getting back to the deal here. I'm going to do this one live. This is one of my interns, okay? This is Miss Brittany. And she's been sitting with me for the past few weeks, so we're going to go through her food chart. The way I usually do this is I start on the left-hand side. That's their Monday, and I just look down. I look for protein first. Did she get protein at every meal? She did not get it at her mid-morning snack, and she did not get it late in the evening. She got Twix in the evening, so we know a Twix is a miss, but she wrote down the truth, which is going to give her a chance to get better. So she got a miss here for a mid-morning snack, a miss in the afternoon. She did a vanilla Greek yogurt with a few berries. I'd say a better choice there than vanilla would be a plain Greek yogurt with those berries because that vanilla's got sugar in it. She did a barbecue turkey burger with tomato and spinach for lunch, and then she did sushi for dinner. So that's a double carb there, and she needs to lose a little bit of weight, just a touch, not a lot. And with her, I'm not going to give her the one carb a day. And remember, we said that's a calorie-laden choice. She's still allowed to eat fruits and vegetables and all kinds of other stuff yet. Because I'm seeing so much inconsistency in just these 3 days, what she realistically needs to do is try to get consistent before we take something out of her diet. Let's just start getting the right things in. That's where we're going to begin. So the next day she did an omelet. The next day she slept through breakfast and lunch, mid-morning snack, but she did barbecue. She did the burger again. She did some mixed nuts with dried berries at her snack, which I would prefer your snack be something like a boiled egg with some green vegetable because it's fibrous and less calories than these dried nuts and dried berries because they're going to be real sugary and calorie laden. Then she did chicken breast with kale and squash. She had a good dinner. So she had eliminated that late carb there. She had a good calorie laden carb at lunch. And if she had eaten breakfast, this would have been a balanced day. And then day 3, it looks like she's trying to create some rhythm with her lunches. I'm proud of her there. Looks like she's trying to create some rhythm by day 3 with her dinner. She had chicken and kale squash. She just missed a snack. All right. And then on day 4, it looks like breakfast was same, that better breakfast of a 2-egg omelet with some vegetables. Her lunch was the same. And then for dinner, she did some chicken wings with celery. So chicken wings are a protein. They're a fatty protein. They're fried. But she didn't eat a bunch of fries with it, which is really the worst thing you can do when you go to a restaurant is eating those freaking drenched, fried up, calorie-laden French fries. And she had celery with it. So not the worst choice and really the best day out of the 3, including the chicken wings. And that is where we're going to start talking about our topic for the day. What a great segue to our topic of the day, which is getting your diet to fit no matter what. And by fit, I mean getting in the things you need to be successful with this system that I teach or whatever your system is. And so that's where I want to start with. First of all, we teach the common sense approach to nutrition. And what we're doing is we're looking at common sense. Here's the common sense. If you eat too much, you gain weight and usually fat. If you do not eat enough, you lose weight. And a lot of times you'll lose muscle if you go to extreme caloric deficit. So what you're trying to find is this sweet spot of eating just under what you require daily to not lose your muscle in the process. And you can help expedite that, not lose your muscle piece, by making sure you include protein as the first nutrient each meal. What I've tried to apply is my experience. And my experience is consistency counts. And so you need to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as your grandma taught you. And then by having little snacks throughout the day in between those major meals, you eliminate that hunger strike that hits, and then you end up choosing crappy foods. It doesn't mean that's the only system. It's just the system that we use and teach. And so with that, it means that every 3 hours you get an opportunity to do a little personal inventory and see, am I willing to make a choice that's good for me, right? But this morning I had a client approach to me and she said, well, what do I do if I don't actually eat lunch until like 2 o'clock and then I'm not going to eat dinner until 5 o'clock? Should I do snack after that? Should I do snack before it? And here's what my answer to that question was. I don't care what you call the meal. You don't have to call it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I want you to be mindful of trying to get something in consistently across your day. Because that calorie total is what's most important. And if I put in too many calories, I'm going to end up gaining weight. If I put in too few calories, then I'm losing the baseline of my metabolism muscle. So I got to find that healthy medium, which most people will find without counting calories. They'll find that happy medium by becoming consistent to healthy choices across their day. That's why writing down everything you eat is what's most important to me first, not logging the amount of food, right? Once we consistently start making wise, common sense decisions across the day, that caloric intake is usually going to average out because you're going to feel full. You're going to feel regulated by being consistent. And then we just use the scale and portion control to make sure you're right? We make sure we're not eating too much of those foods. However, my other case in point was this, the consistency of the every 3 hour approach that I like to use for folks. If, in my own personal experience, once a week I take my kids to breakfast, we go and get Herbie's. It's a little breakfast joint here in town. And one of my two kids usually balls out and gets chocolate covered pancakes, right? Chocolate chip pancakes. Because every once in a while, it's okay to get something good as hell that you enjoy. I encourage that. It's called balance, right? And when they get those, daddy's going to have to eat them to make sure they're not poison, right? I got to have a few bites. And I'll have my omelet and my bacon. And my point is, I know it's a meal where I'm going to have lots and lots of calories. And let's say that night, I know that we got a birthday party at grandma's house, so we're going to have another big meal later on the day. Well, then common sense tells me I've got to be mindful on this day of what I put in between. I still try to eat every 3 hours, right? I always eat every 3 hours because even if I blow it at breakfast, I blow it even worse when I skip my next meal because then I'm telling my metabolism I'm not going to feed you. You need to hold on to whatever I give you. But by putting in protein, that number one nutrient, consistently, then I allow my metabolism to understand nothing's changed. We're still being consistent and you don't need to store fat. You don't need to go into fight or flight mode, right? But I would choose wisely what I chose with that. If I know my breakfast is that nasty little pancake goodness and I know I'm going to have that little piece of cake at night or a big ass piece of cake because I don't roll half-ass, when we're going to have some chocolate, I'm going to get it. Late in the day, then in between, I choose wisely. So I may do a little scoop of protein and I may do a handful of spinach. Or I'll do a couple of pieces of celery. I will choose a low-calorie green vegetable option. You know, a couple of slices of cucumber has like 30, 35 calories. I've already put a shitload of calories in at breakfast. I know I'm going to put some in later in the day. So I use common sense. And for those every 3 hour intervals across the day, I make sure that I don't blow my caloric content on that day. Plus, I'm factoring one other thing. I'm mindful of what's my exercise level on this day, right? If it's for me, on cardio days, I generally do a little less carbohydrate intake than I do on strength training days. My body fat percentage rolls right now where I like it, between 10 and 12%. As a man, 10 to 15%, 12 to 50% is this athletic body fat percentage. For women, healthy body fat percentage, 20 to 23%. If you're in that zone, then you need to be mindful of making sure you get enough calories in the day. If you're above that zone, you need to be mindful of not continuing to grow it, right? You want to make sure you cut your carb content back maybe to 1 time a day, but you need to have protein, at least with the system we teach, every 3 hours. The reason I choose that is because it gives you the consistency and the mindfulness. So that's the big pieces, right? Making sure that you're consistent across the day. You manage that with the every 3 hour interval, which creates the mindfulness of I'm looking at what I write down every 3 hours. It's why these people that continue to write down milkshakes and cookies and stuff, one of two things happens. They either get more miserable from not losing weight and seeing themselves make crappy choices that they change and start to make better choices and lose weight, or they quit and come back fatter 6 months from now. I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just the facts. It's what happens, right? So by creating that consistency that, you know, I've worked a program before and it taught me about spot inventory, right? And it said if things are unmanageable, take a spot inventory, look at it. That's the cool thing about food charts is every 3 hours I get to take a spot inventory and look, am I willing to make a healthy choice for myself in a 3-hour interval? And if I'm not, why not? Did I not plan well? Am I making an excuse? And am I going to give myself the grace to get back on the train 3 hours later? And that's what making my diet fit is. I kind of go in with the mindfulness and the awareness that comes from this approach to say, I know I'm going to have this big breakfast. I know I've got the late afternoon. So in between, my snacks need to be fibrous and green and include protein in each one. So 3 examples: boiled egg with some celery, small scoop of protein with an apple. And I would just eat kind of around the outside of the apple, get more of that skin because I had those big meals, right? And the third choice might be doing, slices of cucumber with a 2-ounce, or for women, 2-ounce piece of chicken or a 4-ounce piece of chicken. I'm not making love to that chicken and that cucumber, right? Plain ass cucumber is not great. I just get it done. I don't make love to that food because I know I am on these other ends. I could talk about it for a long time. But the summary of it is mindfulness, consistency in how you approach the food, and through those two together, it helps you see across your day. And here's the last piece. If you don't have these skills, be honest with yourself and get some accountability. That's why the hell I have a job, is to help people with that accountability. And I offer you that opportunity free here on Food Chart Fridays. You can turn in food charts. You can ask me questions anytime you want, and I'll be willing to help. I will email you one of these charts so you can start writing it down, and you can take a look at the truth. The truth will set you free. You've heard that before. And at minimum, it may, like it's done for Dave, the guy that was struggling, start to initiate some surrender. Because you get that awareness up and you see what you're doing, and then you got to surrender to what you've been doing that hasn't worked, and then you get a chance to grow. I learned that somewhere else as well, and I'm real grateful for that. So, get your protein in and grab some vegetables. It'll never steer you wrong. I want to tell you, on this Friday, have a great weekend. Much love to you, and be well. We'll see you next Friday for Food Chart Fridays live at noon. And we're going to check back in on that intern and see if she's continued the trend of getting better each day. Peace out.